Okay, we have about 10 seconds. When you hear the recording, that's your cue to start.
Thank you.
Okay, well, it is Thursday, September 12th, 3 p.m. and I will call this City of Lacey Lodging Tax Advisory Committee meeting to order. First, we have one member of this committee who is attending remotely today, is that correct?
Looks like we are still waiting for him to join.
Okay, and so all of the members are present. We are short one member of this committee, so we're supposed to be at 5 members. Need one more. But before we begin, let's do our land acknowledgement. We, the City of Lacey, are on the ancestral land of the tribal people of the Treaty of Medicine Creek, including the Squally Indian Tribe and the Squaxin Island Tribe. We acknowledge and remember those tribal people not recognized today who were absorbed or relocated into other tribes for survival. And with that, it appears as though we have an agenda. Can I get a motion for our agenda today if we do have enough votes for that?
I so move that we approve the agenda.
Okay,
3 out of 5. Okay.
in a second.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion before we vote? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. And are there any opposed? Seeing none, we have an approved agenda. Next on our agenda is public comment. I don't see that there's anybody here wanting to provide public comment. I do believe there was one public comment that was one written comment.
Yes, one written comment was submitted for today.
One written comment was submitted today, and that will be added to the record. Our next agenda item is 6A, which is our advisory board handbook update presented by our assistant city manager, Shannon Kelly-Fong.
Well, good afternoon, committee members. It's good to see you all again. I know it's been a few months since we have been together. Thank you, Sadie. I appreciate that. So I'm gonna just quickly go over the updated advisory board handbook. This was something that was recently updated by City Council that had been worked on for the past couple of months. And really, this started with our Commission on Equity being Zoom bombed last year. And through that process, we decided to take a look at the tools that we provide both our council and our advisory board for public comment specifically, and not just looking from a tools perspective, but creating a more standardized way for all of our boards, including council and our advisory boards, to provide public comment. So the council did update the advisory board handbook. They also updated their own policies on public comment. And I'm gonna go over just briefly all of the changes and edits that they did for awareness purposes. So it's good to see you.
Hello, Chad.
Can you hear us okay?
Yep, I can hear you okay.
Fantastic. We can hear you really well as well.
Perfectly. Sorry, I get really loud on these things. So.
All right, so this is included in your packet. This is also something that you can find on the website. If you go to government, go to advisory boards, anybody can access this and take a look through it. This includes the standards and protocols and ground rules that the council lays out for all of the advisory board members. The council did adopt a resolution putting this into effect on August 6th, but with an effective date of September 2nd. So moving forward, we're going out to every single major advisory board and providing an update on this particular update. And then also we'll be doing some best practices for meetings for our major advisory boards. So, and by major, I just mean the ones that meet frequently once a month, because you all are all very important to us. So let me make that clear.
All the PMs.
Forget it.
So what you'll find in here is a table of contents, and just one of the things we really wanted to do in this update was this document was created probably a decade plus ago. And a lot of the language and information we found in there, while very helpful, was also redundant. So we just wanted to take a kind of streamlined approach of what could be the fastest, easiest, most accessible way for community members and advisory boards to get information, whether they want to become an advisory board in the future or if you're actively serving as an advisory board now. So we've added a couple of chapters here, and we'll go over those in more detail, but just to highlight them, they are the public comment chapter, the public hearing chapter, and then the meeting disruption chapter. And we've also added a few appendices. So on the streamlining, we provided just a real quick information on what advisory boards do and who they serve and where you can get more information on finding this document online. Provided a little bit of background on how the city is a municipal code city and what RCWs pertain to the city itself, what the city's mission, vision, and values and motto are. Those are things that didn't change. None of that information changed. We just kind of streamlined the introduction paragraphs. We also provided a overview of advisory boards and what the purpose is. And again, this was one of the paragraphs that we just wanted to provide more up-to-date information and make it more accessible. We also updated all of the sections on each individual advisory board. We found that some of them were a little bit out of date and maybe weren't reflecting the names that we're using now. And I'll use the example of the Parks Board of Commissioners was still called out, and now it's the Parks Culture and Recreation Board. So we just wanted to make sure we were providing the most up-to-date information on all of our boards. And as you can see, we've got a lot of them. Provided a little bit more information, just again, streamlining some of the interpersonal standards, protocols, and ground rules. One of the things that we've been stressing with the advisory boards is that it's really important for us to do our business, that everybody arrives on time and are prepared for meetings. If we don't have a quorum, we can't conduct any business. And so it's really helpful if everybody on the advisory board lets their staff liaison know if they are not going to be able to attend a meeting or if they are running late to a meeting so that we can plan accordingly. Talks about open public meetings, Public Records Act, open government training, which I know you all have done. Talks about social media, email addresses, which we provided an update at a previous LTAC on new email addresses, city electronic devices and how they can be used and how they can't be used. And then one of the new sections here is public comment. So this applies, like I said, with the council and also all of the advisory boards, and it supersedes any policies within advisory board policies and procedures that may have been adopted by their respective boards. What it says is that public comment can be received in 3 different ways. So first, in person, so individuals can come here to the chambers or wherever the meeting's being held. They can sign up using the sign up sheet, and we've added some additional language and just kind of helpful indicators of what to do when you walk in the doors over there, if you look over there. You can sign up that way, and then that will be given to the presiding officer, and the presiding officer will go through in person. Granted, there is time, the presiding officer can also ask individuals who didn't sign up if they want to provide public comment. The next way is to do it remotely, and to provide public comment remotely, you do have to sign up and register 2 hours in advance. And so John has set the system up on the back end where individuals, when they go to the meeting, they can register and say whether or not they want to provide public comment. There will be no kind of ad hoc remote public comment. So you can't just call somebody who didn't register to provide public comment. They need to register in advance. Very similarly with written public comment, this also needs to be provided 2 hours in advance. So that way we can get it out to all of the board members and give you all time to read it and digest it for the meeting. There's a couple of rules here that apply to public comments. Number 1, that the presiding officer will determine the order of receiving comments. So this is up to the presiding officer and how they want to go about it, but they have to follow all of the rules as indicated above. All individuals who provide comment need to provide their name, city of residence, or connection to the city, and the topic or subject matter of their comment. So just a really quick, brief statement. I'm here to talk about LTAC funding as an example. Individuals providing comment are limited to 3 minutes. And so we are working on setting up timers so that individuals can clearly see how much time they have remaining for their public comments. And then after that time has ended, there will be a sound that gets made here, and we actually heard it a little earlier, and that will let individuals know that their time has come up, and it'll also show up there that their time is at 0. The public comment time period itself is limited to 30 minutes. However, that can be extended by the consent of the body to add more time or to even add an additional public comment time at the end of the agenda. So there's always the option to do that. There is prohibited items now at public comments, and the prohibited items are those that have public hearings. So if there's something specified, save it for the testimony rather than the public comment, which won't reflect in the final testimony. Electric and physical presentations, recordings, or props are not allowed. However, banners and signs can be allowed as long as they're on the back of walls and they don't impede with the business of the body itself. Disruptions and interruptions, including clapping, cheering, booing, or interrupting speakers or candidate endorsements are not allowed. And finally, specific threats of violence against a person or group with a reasonable fear of harm to person or property or sexual harassment are prohibited. The updated public hearing policies are very similar with some slight nuances. So everything I said about how you can provide testimony is the same in person. You can sign up in the sign-in sheet, provided there's time. The presiding officer can call people up. Remotely, you have to register 2 hours in advance. Written, it has to be provided 2 hours in advance. What is different is that individuals providing testimony only are required to provide their name and their city of residence or connection to the city, because presumably the topic is whatever the public hearing is on. So it's a much more limited scope. Testimony is also limited to 3 minutes. And unlike public comment, there is no total time for testimony. So public hearings can last longer than 30 minutes. And then after the public hearing closes, individuals are not permitted to address the advisory board or staff on that specific issue during the meeting itself. Prohibited items are exactly the same as noted above with public comment. The next chapter that was added was meeting disruptions, and this just provides more information for advisory boards and our staff liaisons on what to do if there is a major disruption during an advisory board meeting. And so you can see you've got 3 options of removing the disruptors, having the room cleared, or adjourning the meeting, and it provides a detailed description of how to do that. In the appendices, we've got all of our policies and procedures that have been adopted by the various advisory boards. And then at the very end, so I'm going to skip down here, so don't look right now. At the very end, we've added a couple more tools for advisory board members. The first one being a public comment script. So this is just another way that presiding officers could read from the script to really succinctly overview what public comment is and what public comment isn't. So this is a tool that could be used. It doesn't need to be used. The next thing we provided also was a little bit more on notes of public comment. And the reason we wanted to provide this was, as we dug through this topic specifically, we, talked about First Amendment rights, we talked about hate speech, and then the difference of a hate crime. Hate speech is permissible during public comment, and it is, it can be a very terrible experience. And so we wanted to provide some tools for advisory boards to be able to respond when those incidents happen. And so the important thing to start off is that you have to allow the individuals their 3 minutes, because we have to allow everybody the same time. So after the 3 minutes have ended, it is the ability of the body itself to make a comment on anything that may contain hateful speech or just major incorrect information. And so we've provided a couple of examples on how to respond to problematic comments. So you can see here in this example, this was something maybe where, again, hate speech was made. The board could say, the comments that were just made are deeply problematic, harmful to the community, and contain hate speech, and are wholly inconsistent with the community's value. The city is committed to eradicating all forms of racism and oppression and working to change that leads to a more equitable society for all community members. So again, you give the individual the time, the same time as everybody else, but then you can say how problematic the comments were. Very similarly, it also provides an example of when maybe some information was made incorrectly. So you could say the comments that were just made contain erroneous and false information. For correct information on the topic, please see city staff. Or if you know the correct information, you can clearly make sure that you clear and provide all of the correct information. The final thing that we provided was a script, again, in case
Even
there.
by that school board one, that kind of, I just saw it. The school.
Yep.
Comment,
Yeah.
yeah, that was good.
So
I mean, as an example, because I think some of the students were coming here airing their issues that should have been aired at the school, yeah.
Yep, and I think that's a good point of like redirecting it to the right
Right.
governing body if you have
Exactly.
the opportunity to do so.
Right.
So last thing we provided here for another tool is a disruption script for city council and advisory boards. Again, if something small happens, like an individual won't stop providing public comment, what we can do, but then also if something larger happens. The one thing I do want to make a note for what we have in here is that can only happen for adjourning the meeting after there is a vote of the board, and that's very clear earlier on in the advisory board handbook. So we will be coming and doing a quick tweak on that shortly. So that is the advisory board handbook and the updates. And if there's any questions from y'all, I'm happy to answer them.
Seeing none, so Shannon has done a really good job of cleaning up, lots of the municipal code and some of the language and vernacular that is, you know, outdated or needed to be changed because of legislation or circumstance, that presents itself. And she's done a really good job of cleaning those things up for us. We did not like the fact that we had to let these people, you know, ramble on for 3 minutes, insulting people and so on, but they have a First Amendment right to freedom of speech. So it was one of those things at the council level where it got a lot of discussion, and Shannon was able to take our direction and really put it together really well. And she's even better at explaining it than putting it together. So thank you, Shannon.
Thank you, Shannon.
And I hope you guys all
Yeah,
understand.
yeah.
Next item on our agenda is our LTAC budget, which will be presented by our finance director, Troy Wu.
Great, thank you, Deputy Mayor. I believe you have this in your packet. It should look familiar. You are all very experienced lodging tax advisory committee members. And I am never creative, so this looks exactly how it has for the 15 years I've been here. So you of course have the 23 results just for you know, some reference and perspective. You have kind of the middle columns there that are the current budget. So I'll start there. So far revenues are coming in as expected. We did project $540,000 of hotel motel tax. We're at just over 336,000. That's roughly 62.2%, somewhere in that range.
Roughly.
Yep, it's a little bit lower than you think. Through August, you'd be at 2/3 or 66.7. But we do collect, in general, we collect hotel motel tax 2 months in arrears. So we still have July, August, kind of the bigger summer months of activity that aren't necessarily reflected in that percentage, but again, are coming in as expected. In fact, we're about $9,000 more than the same period last year. So like I said, we're doing well in terms of revenues. On the expenditure side, we have the majority of the expenditures that have come in. You think a lot of events happen during these summer months, so that certainly is consistent with what we see in the numbers. We've spent $423,700 of the $600,000 budget. You know, a little bit higher in terms of that 2/3 of the way through the year, but again, the summer months are when the festivals, when the events generally occur. So again, no surprises there. So everything looks good in terms of the current budget. You do have the 2025 requests and revenues. It's a little bit bigger since this is what we're here to talk about today. So for 2025, I'm basically projecting the same level of hotel motel tax. We're within just a few percentage points of the current year. Not expecting any growth or any changes to the base, so the same amount. A little bit more in terms of interest revenues, about $6,000 more next year. That is an area we're watching very closely. We do expect interest rates to come down. We expect the Federal Reserve to act next week, and I think interest rates are going to be decreased next week and probably for the unforeseeable future or foreseeable future. In terms of the requests themselves, I'm not going to steal Sadie's thunder, but we have almost $899,000 in requests. So like always, we have more need than we have resources, but like I said, that's pretty normal.
No,
So we're about 332,000 more requests than resources. Is my balance sheet here? It's not. So I usually talk about fund balance as well. I'm sorry that wasn't included in, actually, I can probably pull it up.
I didn't saw that.
Just have to remember where I put it now.
that's a big figure, huh?
Scroll down a little.
Show up. It's actually happened today at my desk. Oh.
Are you going to look at documents up on the top middle? See if that pops up. Nope, okay.
Well, I could speak to it since we're having a little.
Go ahead while she's.
Yeah,
Oh, it just popped up.
Just needed a moment to think. Can you see us, Chad?
Yep, certainly can.
Okay, so the cash balance for the fund, this is really the 2024 projection. So we started the year with $872,000 in balance. We have our normal reserves that we've had in place for a number of years. And our projected ending fund balance for 2024 is 234,000. So that is at your disposal in terms of your considerations of the requests. We do have an operating reserve in there, so we're comfortable in terms of a cash flow standpoint. The current budget does include the use of tax of just under 40,000. I do understand that one of the grantees isn't going to use their full funds, so that 234,000 number is going to be slightly higher. Is that 30,000, Sadie?
Yeah, I would say we're anticipating to have around 20 remaining
20,
from the
so-
full award.
So about 254,000 is the likely amount available for
is
your.
that the rugby?
Yes, they have notified us that they have had to shorten their season from what was
Yeah.
projected, so.
Staff that they, anyway. Okay, so we've paid, we've given Washington Performing Arts Center there, that's all.
Mhm,
There, it's out of there, okay.
that's correct, yeah. Okay, that's all I have. I'm happy to answer any questions you might have, and of course, I'll be here as you continue your discussions if you have any other budget or financing related questions.
So one of the things that I was thinking of, and adding to this meeting, and we'll see if we can add to the next one, is upcoming hotel projects, in the city.
Yeah, I was thinking about that too.
Yeah, and,
Cause I saw where we're gonna have a couple, huh?
yeah, and that's really gonna help,
Yeah.
this effort. So, I may be able to get city manager to give us a quick report or rundown, on what's coming, how many rooms, and so on, so that we can potentially forecast something out 2-3 years or something along those lines. I just want everybody to kind of know,
Yeah.
what's on the horizon, so that we can. Okay,
Do bed and breakfasts, or not bed and breakfasts, Airbnbs, do they?
we discussed that last season, and
And I thought they're supposed to.
It's
Statutorily, they are allowed if they're within the city. So keeping in mind that not all Airbnbs in the area, although on Airbnb they come up as Lacey, they may actually have a physical
Right.
address that's outside of our jurisdiction to collect, but there's potential.
And we do receive some, I'm laughing because I can't remember it's a fairly small amount. I also think there's limitations on how long the stays are. I mean, these are really, hotel-motel tax is a short-term stay type of tax, so I can't remember if it's
30
as short,
days
is
or
it 30
less.
days? Okay.
Maybe we can have an update on that one.
Cause it seems like a lot of people I know use Airbnbs when they go out of town. I don't know how many people when they come to Lacey.
I didn't know if our Airbnb situation
Yeah.
was small, was medium, was robust. I didn't know, what our status was. But maybe we can drill down sometime in the near future and see what we have, at least what's listed and confirmed and see who's playing fair,
Right,
okay?
yeah,
For lack of a better way to say that,
exactly.
in our next couple meetings or so.
Mhm.
And don't get offended if we end up having to do it off season. Everybody's got a pretty good sized workload. So we're good to move on in our agenda. I try not to throw work on staff when
Yeah.
yeah.
Happy to know.
Next on our agenda is our scoring rubric and budget tool review, and our management analyst, Sadie Sigmund, will be presenting. Hey, dear. All right.
All right, well, welcome everybody. Good to see you all again. We're gonna do a brief update and starting with just a refresher on lodging tax funding allowable uses. So as we all know, statutorily, we're limited on the uses for lodging tax. We're eligible to fund tourism marketing, special events and festivals, and the operations of capital expenditures of tourism related facilities, and that can cover both publicly owned or privately owned. So this tax is obviously, as we just discussed, generated by overnight stays, which is distributed back to the city for you all to make funding recommendations on as a committee. Lodging tax revenues generated by those overnight stays within the city are how we get these funds, and then we are eligible to give them to all of those qualifying activities that I just listed, with the hope that they will continue to promote tourism and lead to more overnight stays. And again, those overnight stays, as long as they're in Lacey in the UGA, we are able to collect those revenues. So here we have a nice chart that kind of describes, the visitors come, they travel to Lacey to stay in our hotels. When they stay in paid lodging venues, they pay the lodging tax as part of their stay. And then we as a municipality receive that back from the state to distribute. And in turn, hopefully those tourism promotion activities, events and venues that we fund bring more people back into the circle of life. This is also information that we covered at our lodging tax workshop that the city co-hosted with our regional partners in June. So we found that there was a large appetite for more information about lodging tax. So the same overview and information was provided to interested community members by the city of Lacey, Tumwater, Olympia, and Thurston County. So this information is all available online, which seems to have been really helpful for our applicants in understanding that process as well. So getting into the lodging tax funding application.
Before we go there.
Yes.
Would you mind talking a little bit about the workshop and how it turned out?
Yeah, absolutely. So we, as I mentioned, co-hosted a lodging tax applicant workshop in June with representatives from Olympia, from Tumwater and Thurston County in partnership with us here in Lacey. We had it here in council chambers. We had about 20 people attend in person, which was a really good turnout. So people from all different areas. applicants that we have seen before, applicants that we haven't, and we did an overview of this information, the basic, what is lodging tax, how can we use it, what does the application cycle look like for applicants, and what they can know to prepare for their application. And then we just had a very open dialogue, kind of question and answer session that lasted for quite a while. Lots of questions about, how to fill out my application. What if I don't have actual figures, or is it okay to use from the prior year, recognizing that this is funding for the next cycle. So there was a lot of really good questions and answers that we made available. And then we also recorded the workshop session, and that is posted on the city's website. So people can go and have access to rewatch it if they have questions in the future, or just want to revisit to see how they can fill out those applications. So I would say it was really well received, and I know in Lacey, at least lots of our applicants called, had follow-up questions, and referenced the workshop and questions when completing their application this year. So it definitely seems to be information that has been really digestible and helpful for our community members.
And is that something that we're gonna continue to do, or is that just a one-time?
I mean, that's something we could definitely consider doing, whether we do it every year or different variations and how we want to do it. I think there are a lot of options, but if there was the desire or the community wanted more of that, I think there are some options and ways we could do that.
I think it was well received. I went. That was good.
Just kind of adding on to what Sadie said, this was one of the ideas that this group talked about. And so I think, again, it was a beneficial addition this year. And you can see, like Sadie mentioned, there's a lot of more applicants. But just great feedback we received from the community, and having that resource available at any time. So even if you couldn't attend it, you can now watch it, and you can get all of the information that Sadie and the rest of the representatives provide at any time.
And I was proud that Lacey took the lead. So.
Of course we did.
We had
Yeah.
a lot of
There you
great
go.
feedback, so it went really well. I know the other jurisdictions have shared that they've got good feedback about it as well, and it's been a really helpful tool for them. And I think you will see later in the presentation some of the impacts of having that workshop when we review some newer applications and things like that. So very well received.
Is the scoring rubric something that was a part of that process, or?
We discussed the scoring rubric. One thing about the workshop that was really great is that we had representatives from each location and city or county who could share each unique process. And so that was the really great thing about the question session, is people could ask specifically, what's Lacey's process? What's Olympia's? And, as we found, most of us use some sort of scoring rubric tool or consideration. So it was discussed, how Lacey utilizes our rubric, how it's embedded within the application. So it's very transparent that there's scoring criteria, but it was definitely something brought up, and good feedback from applicants that, they felt that helped them understand what the committee was looking for. So knowing how that goes. So I think they seem to think it was a helpful tool as an applicant as well.
And we're strictly online now, right, with the applications?
Yes, we have an online application. We did have a few applications that we accepted fillable PDFs this year, but if people request or have technology issues, we can still, and it's provided to you all in the same packet format though. But we've gone to online, which has also been well received, I think, by our applicants, because it's easy to look and see ahead of time and not have to print paper copies and things like that.
Did we receive any paper copies this year?
No, I had 3 digital submissions of the fillable PDF, just of individuals who were having some technology complications. But other than that, the online application seems to have been a really smooth transition.
And Sadie, correct me if I'm wrong, but even last year when we started this process, we received only digital applications.
Yeah, we didn't have anything but the online application submitted
Yeah.
last year.
I remember that, and that's why I asked, because I was like, okay, last year it worked, right?
Yeah.
Did we have the same success this year?
I would say so, yes. I think that the technology errors were minimal, and it, hard to tell with everyone's unique operating systems and technology, what the source of that could have been. But I think overall it was really successful. This year, we were able to take some of the application questions and condense them, make them easier for applicants to fill out. As you're all aware, by the size of the application packets, they're very lengthy. So being able to combine some of those questions to make the application more user-friendly also, I think really helped in the transition because it just makes it so much easier.
Yeah, I thought it was gonna be too abrupt for last year, so I
Yeah.
was like, you know what, no, we gotta have hybrid, we gotta still give them the chance to fill out a piece of
Yeah.
paper and drop it off at the counter wherever.
Yeah.
But it worked as well as you guys thought it would.
Yeah, I think it went really well. A lot of people were really happy with the transition just because printing multiple copies seems so time consuming that I think it was a very welcomed transition. And I know all of our regional partners are doing online applications now too. So I think it's what they're used to in this area as well.
So.
Any other questions about the workshop applications? Excellent. Well, we do have in your application packet a revised copy of the scoring rubric and criteria. As I mentioned, we have changed the application just slightly, condensing some questions, reordering them so it's a more natural flow for applicants. So one thing that was updated is just corresponding the application questions to match the changes that were made to the application. And the rubric has been updated, so now this will be a tool that we can use consistently for all applications. Last year, the rubric was specific to use for events and special festivals. This year, it'll be able to be used as a tool to help score marketing and facility applications as well because of the way the application itself was updated to be more neutral for all types of applicants. So these scores will translate directly and be applicable to all applicant categories. So that will make it a more equitable process for all of our applicants as well to have the same consideration. And again, the rubric is a tool for all of you to help with your scoring and your selection process. It's not something that this committee has decided to be the exclusive deciding factor in how funding is designated. So just a tool for all of you. And then calling out again, there are point criteria for each category. So we have categories such as tourist attraction that are worth 20 points, but then there are criteria for each point score. So we have consistency built throughout the scoring. So there will be criteria. Do they demonstrate the ability to do this? Can they maybe in part demonstrate the ability to attract visitors, or is it a full 20 point where they can attract visitors from all 50 miles and greater? So each you will see in your rubric category has corresponding criteria that really matches and adds up for consistent scoring. The scoring rubric itself did have some slight changes from last year, including combining financial sustainability and the program sustainability categories. In previous cycles, we had each of those as 5 points. And this year, with updating the application, we were able to combine those to just changing the financial sustainability to have a 10-point weight. So that is one difference. The overall total points are still 130 though. So we just kind of folded those together. Any questions so far? The next thing to go along with this is a scoring tool. And I know in person you all have a printed copy of this to look larger. Sorry, Chad, I printed in person copies. But this scoring tool will be new this year and hopefully improve and make it a little easier for all of you to use scoring. Last year, we did scoring through SurveyMonkey externally and kind of separate. This year, all at once, you will be able to do your scoring and use the budget tool, which we'll get to in a minute, all at once. So it's all gonna be one Excel workbook. And what you'll be able to do is all of the applications are listed, so you won't have to go back and forth. Each point score is listed here, and They each have the options only matching the criteria in the rubric, so you don't have to kind of resort back and forth to double check the point weight. So you'll be able to select and assign, and then over here at the end, this workbook is designed to auto total all of your inputs for you. So we'll be testing this out this year to see, hopefully that tool may be more helpful to have at the same time and do all of the scoring at one place and have one deliverable for you all in considering that. And I will show you in a minute the live workbook and what that looks like. Any questions about this tool so far?
I think you just have to get into it.
Yeah, and I'll pull up the workbook itself here in a moment and show you the functionality.
So this doesn't allow for me to say I only want to give them 7 points on that one. It's either 10, 5, 10, or 20.
Correct,
That's it.
the way it's set up, yeah.
I can't splice hairs on this and say, you know what, I'm feeling 13 on that.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's a great question, and it's set up with specific parameters so that it's consistent scoring for all applications and all considerations. So you all have the same set of information, the set of guidance, and that's equal for everyone. So it just kind of builds in some consistency. Now, there is opportunity to change the point weighting if the committee feels that it would be better to have different point weight options, but kind of building in those parameters, and it's a yes or no, do you meet the criteria or not, builds in some consistency for scoring across applications and members.
Well, that's a conversation we could have if we as a group felt like, you know what, I'd like to granulate it a little bit more, maybe.
A little bit less.
Yeah.
Right, so that's one of those things where it's like, oh, because what I don't want is you guys to feel like, you're pigeonholed into anything.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? I want you to be able to make your best decision. So if it's coming across as like it's either 5, 10, or 20, and that's it, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? I don't want you to feel like some of your decision-making authority is being taken in having to pick one of those 3 things. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
Okay.
Chad, did you have a comment?
You're muted, Chad.
I did, yeah, no, I'm sorry. Such a little screen and the sun's directly in my face. So not ideal meeting settings for me today. Yeah, so but we're still gonna have the conversation, like even though we're scoring the way we're scoring, we'll still have the final outcome because obviously we can't fully fund every project or every group. So we'll still have, we all might agree on something else, but say, hey, I really want to revisit these 3 different groups and maybe fund a little bit differently. So okay, cool. As long as we're still having that availability, then I think we're fine. And I do like that we have kind of more accurate scoring to keep it a little bit more level, because I mean my 13 could be completely different than deputy mayors, or so I kind of like having those more rigid guidelines or more evened out guidelines. So perfect, thank you.
And that's a great point. Thank you, Chad. The scoring, the way it is assigned right now, a weight value is simply based off, does the application demonstrate this applicant meets this? Can they do this? Can they not? So it is very based on yes or no, which helps, but there is opportunity. We could change any of that. But as Chad mentioned, there is still discussion. It's just a tool to help all of you when overviewing at high level, like, oh, does this seem like it's going to meet all of the goals to help increase tourism?
Yeah, there was
So-
only like 1 or 2 that had like 3 options.
Yeah, those, most of the ones only have 1 or 2, either does or does not demonstrate the ability. Questions that have heavier weights are typically those 20-point questions where there may be some variation. I'll take marketing as an example. Marketing is a point weight of 20, and those are broken into does not demonstrate the ability to market activities and promote tourism, demonstrates the ability to market and do that, but only to visitors maybe from surrounding areas. And then that 20-point assignment is they can do marketing and demonstrate those abilities, not only locally, but to promote tourism outside of the surrounding areas. So capturing that 50-mile plus radius, which is ideal for generating overnight stays. So those ones have the multiple layers just to reflect that. Is it hitting just our area and our neighbors, or is it really capturing that full 50-mile plus radius? And that's kind of how it's broken out now. But definitely something we can revisit and restructure if the committee would like.
Just for clarity for us and our purposes, because we do have the intent, Sadie's gonna get into this in just a little bit, of sending this out to you for this round. Is the direction then to proceed with how Sadie and we've proposed it with the selections? I heard Chad provided some great comments, but I just want to make sure I'm getting the entire group here of direction for us.
I feel like I just gotta get into this and.
I'm gonna say yes, and the reason why is because I don't want, some side conversation happening that could distract us from, if we do need to make changes, I would suggest that we make them off season. I just didn't want to move beyond that without, at least expressing that at one time.
Excellent. And again, this is just a tool, definitely not something this committee has decided will be the final factor in deciding who gets funding or how much. So
I just want it to be a conversation before we
Yeah.
end the season.
yes, we can definitely, maybe once all of it's done, follow up on and get some feedback from all of you, what you noticed during scoring and things that you saw that maybe could help or make it slightly easier.
Yeah, and there was actually a couple conversations I wanted to have before the end of the season, that being one of them. The other one was, we had talked about and discussed, in previous years, the possibility of setting aside a reserve of maybe 5 or 10% for brand new applicants, people who have never applied before. We never did finish having that conversation. I think we had suggested or said that, this should be a good off-season conversation or end of the season conversation, but it never happened. So if we can make a note of that as well, I think there's a couple things that we can talk about and hopefully before the season is over that might go into next season and have some kind of play or usage in there.
Yeah, absolutely. We can look at, do those fit into these meetings, recognizing we have a quick turnaround to get all of our budget items in. Do we want to add an additional maybe Q4 meeting, or do we want to have this in that Q1 meeting? I know we had a Q1 meeting this year to kind of do a recap and then make some adjustments. I think that could be something really good to have for that Q1 meeting as well, and just maybe make that a little longer to have the opportunity to review and then make some adjustments after we see how the full cycle goes. So
I think what I would like to see is that we end the season with, discussions on those topics. And then if we could give it some consideration off season and then Q1, we could revisit, and that would give everybody time to kind of mull over that information, reconsider those conversations. Do you guys think that would be a good approach?
Yeah, I mean, that could work.
Could
Yeah.
work.
Yeah, I mean, we don't know until we try.
So Deputy Mayor, what I'm hearing is, our last meeting for this cycle, starting that conversation, coming back in Q1 and continuing that conversation. And I will say, last year we did hold that Q1 meeting, and the focus was really on kind of taking a regional look at what was going on. And we, prepared a lot of information and worked with our partners on looking at how did their LTAC compare to our LTAC and what could be done collectively. And out of that came that workshop. And so I think it would provide us a really good opportunity of, let's get some initial feedback at the end of this cycle, and then we can come back and we can do a deeper dive at Q1 with you all, in addition to providing an update on all of 2024, since 2024 will be wrapped up.
Great. And that will be our approach if the rest of the committee wants to go that direction.
So the next option is looking at the budget tool. This is a tool that you all used last year. And hoping again to combine, having you all complete a budget tool and a scoring tool all at once, have one deliverable and be able to do that together at the same time to kind of streamline that process for selection making. One thing that we did add to the budget tool for you all is an overview of paid stay impacts from our applicants. So we have added what the applicants put on their applications as their estimated paid overnight stays for you to consider. And what percentage of all of the overnight stays come from which event. So you can see here as an example, we have the rack of all of the projected paid overnight stays. They have 54% of them sourced from that. So being able to have that snapshot for all of you to see where kind of that heads front to beds is embedded within these applications. So that is a new.
Sadie, I'm not seeing that. Can you share that? Or can I see your other
That's a
screen?
really tough one, though. That is, especially when you don't sell
Are you
tickets.
seeing the presentation,
you
Chad?
don't
I'm
take-
not seeing it right now.
People coming from
Let me
all
stop and
over.
then
I mean, that's just a real.
When you, yeah, so when we get into the applications portion, you're right, we are gonna have that conversation because, you know, while the racks numbers are really
Good now?
impressive, you know, in terms of the number of heads and
Excellent.
beds,
Right,
right?
Right.
But there are some of the other criteria where it's like, you're not selling tickets and you're not,
right.
okay,
You
so.
can't track people.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think, you know, one of the kind of caveats we'll say with this data is it's the best available, right? And so Sadie mentioned that with the workshop, there were a lot of questions on how do we get the figures for how many heads and beds? And in some cases, we do have some data sets that are very useful, whether it's information from, you know, the hotels or geofencing information and data, kind of history with, you know, certain types of tournaments, et cetera. But it is not a precise science by any means, but that's part of the evaluation process when looking at LTAC applications of, you know, how many heads and beds are being provided by an event or marketing or facility.
Do we reach out to VCB on this for them to partner with just the gathering of numbers and datas?
All of our LTAC award recipients are eligible to work with the VCB and set up geofencing and get all of that information. And that is something that has been added into that application process too, is notifying applicants that their information or contact information, if selected, and if the VCB is selected and offers the service, will be shared for the opportunity to do that. And I would say all but 3 of this year's current recipients are working with the VCB on getting that data. So that is something new that Experience Olympia has provided as part of their award. They provide that when they receive funding to all of our recipients. And I know that we have had some recipients who have had some really great traction from the excellent marketing, extra marketing that they do and have had a further reach and shared that. So it's something that the geofencing is a new option that they have provided that has been unavailable to recipients in the past, but they have access to that now. So there is a likelihood as more people become familiar with that and utilize that, the more accurate data we could potentially get. So
So do they charge us for that?
no, that is something that part of their agreement was when they received LTAC funding, one of the services that they would provide is certain free services for LTAC recipients, including the option of geofencing and marketing. So yeah, that is a benefit that our recipients have received as a benefit of the VCB this year. So as Shannon mentioned, the estimated stays are based on what the applicant puts. There may be a variety of ways of calculating that, but there is the addition of that for you all to consider during funding. We still have the existing overall budget for each activity, how much of their projected budget they anticipate being from LTAC funding. And then also including the activity frequency. So as we know, some of our events, our facilities operate year-round, and some events are multi-day events. I'll take the Lacey Spring Fun Fair as an example. This is a 2-day event. Or things like Ole Soccer, who has a season and multiple occurrences. So that is there for you to be able to reference to, especially when it comes to looking at overall participants and estimated paid stays, why some may be higher than others. So those options are all there. And then we have the column, all of our 2024 funding recipients, their information is here, and then the amount requested. And then over here, similar to last year's cycle, there is a column for you all to plug in what you think would be the best funding, and then that will auto-calculate for you the percentage of the ask. So if you recommend 100%, that will calculate over here. So the other thing that we added this year was a priority ranking, and this is a tool to help you identify and help us when preparing options. What are your top 10 funding priorities? So adding into here, which top 10 applications do you find most important to fund? Not necessarily how much, because this is just a ranking, but if you kind of had to prioritize, what would your top 10 be? So we've added that in there too, just to help with the discussion when it comes time to funding selection. So you all have those priorities right in front of you.
Is that a numerical value or is that just like put an X in this box?
Like a 1 through 10.
Okay.
So your number 1 through number 10.
Got it.
1 being the highest priority.
So one thing I'll just add on to what Sadie's overviewed is, Sadie put this together to succinctly provide a lot of the information that's in the packet too. So it's really just there to help, so as you're going through the process. So back to your question, Ruth, it's really just to provide another kind of marker for you to consider as you're filling this out. One of these, absolutely.
And then with this budget tool, similar to last year, you all turned in your individual budget recommendations, and we were able to provide 3 different options for you to consider during that funding recommendation meeting where you make your final decisions. Again, that will be something that we intend to use this tool for this year to help provide a baseline for all of you based off of what you recommended, so that process can go a little smoother. I know I heard from you all last year that helped make the funding decision and process go a little quicker and easier to have that baseline and still have the opportunity to make adjustments though.
I remember that.
So
It did help.
yes,
Yeah.
so
We kind of removed and it worked the number, our budget all the way down too.
mhm.
Yeah.
And I think adding in that top 10 ranking this year will really help make it clear what you as a committee are prioritizing when making those decisions too. So that is the goal for this, and I will share what this workbook looks
It
like.
seems like a project.
Welcome to LTAC. We're giving you homework.
Well, and that was the hope this year, Ruth, in combining this into only one thing to turn in one document is hopefully that will streamline and make it slightly easier on the committee to complete this, because as we know, it's a lot of work with a quick turnaround. So one tab will have this scoring tool. As we just went over, you'll be able to review each and just type in or click the score value for each of these. And then the next tab will be the budget tool. So again, all in one document, you'll only have to do one submittable at the end. Here you will put in your top 10 ranking, again, just 1 through 10. What are your priorities? Your recommendations for funding. This recommended percentage will automatically calculate for you. And then recommended again, similar with last year, the use of $50,000 in reserves would be the recommendation. And then we have our total budget, and it will break out automatically funding by category and percentage for you to use when considering that. And then automatically balance out, is your budget balanced? As we know, all budgets have to be balanced. And then at the bottom, there is a breakout that will identify of your recommendations, how much is city funding. I know we have heard in the past that there's some interest in how much is going towards city-sponsored events and facilities, so that information will be there for your reference as well. But the plan would be to send this workbook tool to the committee after today's meeting to allow you to start scoring, and then throughout the interview process, have that and turn it in before our final meeting on, I believe, the 26th, where we would have the opportunity to put together some funding options based off of the committee's feedback to start with for
So
next year.
that being the case, and if we go from here tonight and we do our scoring, so on and so forth, are we, when are we having the people come in that we wanna see?
Yes, that is what we will be discussing next. So our next meeting is scheduled for next Thursday, the 17th, and that time has been intended to use for interviews. So depending on what we select in the upcoming option.
How do we do that quick?
So how do we, so next Thursday, we're supposed to have people here?
Yes,
Well, we can
We can
discuss that.
discuss
So
that, yeah.
part of the plan though was, we've got our applicants here tonight and Sadie's about to go over them in a little bit more in the presentation and to determine from you all if there were certain people that you knew right away that you're like, we need a presentation from.
Yeah.
And we recognize that, we've heard presentations from, multiple people, whether it was last year or year before. And so just recognizing, is there a way for us to really determine if there's a priority of who to hear from? Because we've got a limited amount of time in the process. And so Sadie's gonna talk a little bit more about
Yes.
that.
Okay.
which is are there any more questions about the scoring
In
and
other words,
budget
have to work
tools?
all weekend, huh?
Yes, yes.
So I do have one comment about about what you just presented. Did you build all that?
With the support of the assistant city manager, we have created budget tools and scoring tools. Yes,
It's really nice.
thank you.
Yeah, and I appreciate you adding in the percentage of the city ask. It's very important.
Yeah, that's something we heard from the committee last year, wanting to have a highlight on that. So, and this is also something, if you find there's something or information you wish immediately available on this, this is a tool that we can update to meet the committee's needs when scoring. So definitely, just like the scoring rubric, keep in mind any recommendations to improve that. If not, I am hearing that we are okay to proceed with the budget tool for this cycle as is.
I would say yes. If I can get all that on one screen, the scoring tool, and then toggle over to the budget tool, it's gonna make things a whole lot easier. Of course, my screen, I'm not gonna be able to do it on something like that size. And I hope you have something bigger than that at home.
Yeah.
But you're gonna make our job a lot easier with this. Thank you.
It was the hope is maybe doing it all once would be easier because it is such a heavy lift, the nature of LTAC being a short funding cycle, so. If that is all I have for scoring rubric.
Let's move on to
Agenda item.
well, it's still under this agenda item, which is the presentations for the 19th, if indeed we are gonna have the presentations for the 19th. Oh, I didn't flip it over.
You are fine.
We just finished this one. Just talking about presentations.
You're right. Our next agenda item is a review of the 2025 lodging tax funding applications after the budget tool and scoring rubric. I don't know why I skipped ahead, thinking to myself, oh, we're gonna adjourn in a minute. We're not. We are about to get into the heavier lift of this meeting. And again, we have Sadie presenting.
Excellent. So I have some information, just an overview of all of the applicants, what we're looking at, some information to provide all of you, and then time at the end to review each applicant and by category, combining marketing and facilities, and then going through a review of the events, just to make any considerations for interviews. So for the 2025 funding cycle, we had 30 applications overall, a very diverse and several new applicants. I think, as I mentioned, we got really great feedback from the funding workshop, and I think that brought forth some new potential applicants and interest in lodging tax.
How does 30 compare with previous years?
We will get to that. See, we read each other's minds. So we had in 2024, 26 applications. So we have 4 new applications, well, 4 more, I should say, because there are different applicants, but 4 additional than last year. Looking at our funding requests, slightly more, about $40,000 more in requests. And then just looking again at those revenues from the last 2 cycles and how that stacks up. And what we can see over here is a breakdown of our funding requests by this, to clarify, is the tourism related facilities. I know those blues are very close. So a breakout of each category, how much our asks are. So 417,396 for those facility asks, 117,998 for our marketing asks, and then 363,500 for those special events asks. So pretty consistent from what we've seen in the past. Our tourism related facilities and special events make up the majority of the asks for our lodging tax funding. This year, the events were 40%, 46% of the total. Facility asks were 40%, and then those marketing asks were only 30%.
So, as I look at, these requests and the budget, and I'm really hoping that one day our tourism marketing portion is going to be like smaller than the other 2 portions, because effective marketing, I know it's Andrew, how much do you spend on marketing?
Quite a bit.
And what is your expected yield?
Not that much, honestly. I mean, we market a whole bunch. I pay for through the franchise and of course on my own as well. And it's really hard to calculate exactly how much is coming in based on that marketing funds. Because no one comes in and it's like, oh yeah, I saw a flyer in the value pack and that's why I'm here,
Right.
Excuse me. They just come in and book. So it's, kind of hard to calculate that, honestly. Some of it I think is kind of wasteful, but you kind of have to do it, but honestly, haven't seen too much, honestly.
Okay. So and the reason I think of marketing is I have marketing in my day job, and if you get, this small percentage, you did really well. And sometimes that percentage is 5, 10, some areas it's, the expectation is a return of 2 to 5%, and so, in my mind, what I really think about is how can that 417 generate 834, right? So when I look at marketing graphs, I'm always thinking, if you're, and I don't know for a fact that if your marketing is working, your return on marketing should be, whatever you spent plus a quarter, a half, a third, or where that works. And I don't know that we have those types of that type of tracking or demographic information for LTAC, right? I'm sure the Washington Center knows exactly how much their marketing dollars produce in ticket sales, or how many seats get filled based on, how many dollars they spent marketing or what goes on the marquee. And I don't know that we are able to track such a thing. I just have hope for the tourism and marketing portion to shrink below the size of the other ones, but that may happen as we get more rooms, as we get, you know, a little further down the road.
Well, and to clarify, so this information, our total asks from our 30 applicants was 898, 894. This is a breakout of those asks. So we have the 3 applicant categories. We have applicants who apply for event funding, our facility funding, and then our tourism marketing, the VCB, for example. So of this,
Chamber, I think is in there too, right?
Which chamber?
Lacey?
Lacey, it should be. I
the,
saw them in there.
they applied as a tourism promotion facility application category, actually. So considering these are of our total asks, the breakdown of which goes to each category. So this is not a reflection of what the applicants project. This is an actual breakout of which funding categories we have asks in. So a point of clarification
Thank
on
you.
And maybe one more addition to that, so, you know, Sadie's pointed out the $117,000, almost 118,000 is the tourism marketing. But what you'll find if you go through all of, you know, the events and the applications, you'll also find though that they're doing some marketing as
Exactly.
well built in there. But I think that just goes to the importance though too of marketing. So I think, you know, to your comment about, you know, what is the right kind of ratio, and I don't have an answer for that, but all I'm saying is that I think that there is that value and you can see that value across all of the applications.
Agreed.
Yeah,
Agreed.
they all do.
So looking at further at our funding applicants, breaking out how many of these applications occur more than a single day. So with the potential of overnight stays for overnight and continuous activities. So 6 of our 30 applicants have annual activities operating year round. 18 have variable multi-occurrence activities. So that could be things like a season that lasts for a duration of months, or every weekend for so many months, or maybe something that's a 2 or 5 day festival or event. So, and then of those, 6 of our applicants are single day, one time occurrence events. Looking broken out by each category, we have tourism marketing and the total applications. So we have 1 application for tourism marketing category this year. And then our tourism related facilities, we have 5 applicants, and then the remaining 24 applicants were special events. One other notable thing is the number of first-time applicants. So this year we have 11 first-time applicants, 10 of which are special events and 1 first-time tourism-related facility. And then I did
Which
also
one was that?
Makerspace.
the makerspace.
Oh, yeah.
And then looking also just highlighting of these applicants, how many of them are located or activities are based out of Lacey. So of the 30, 22 of them are. And then looking further at the funding applications, taking a look at the estimated participation, so the impact, yes.
Just real quick on that last slide, so based in Lacey, 22 of 30, or their event is based in Lacey, or they themselves
Yes,
are based?
either the event or their activities are based or occur in Lacey or the
City.
UGA, yes.
Okay.
So the remaining 8 would be activities that happen in other areas and locations outside of Lacey. So looking at these applications, we have the estimated number of participants. So combined from all 30 applications, we're looking at a little over 1.3 million in total participation. And we can see that again broken out by which categories have been estimated to bring in the most participants. Those tourism related facilities, as we can see, project to bring in the most number of participants, followed by our marketing and then our special events. Within that, I broke out the estimated number of paid stays from our applications. So from all 30 applications, the total number of paid overnight stays projected is a little over 36,000, and that is broken out, as we can see. Again, those tourism related facilities are projected to bring in the most paid stays, followed by impacts of the tourism marketing and then events. So I did break out the top 5 applications who had the highest number of estimated paid stays, with the RAC being number 1, estimating 20,000 paid overnight stays for the year. Second, the Thurston County Fairgrounds and Event Center with 6,000, the Washington Center with a little over 1,900, followed by Ole Soccer, which estimates a little over 1,800 overnight stays, and Olympia Harbor Days, who estimates having 1,200 overnight stays as a result of their event. So just a different.
We don't know how many of those are in Lacey.
Correct. That is one thing, is one, it being estimated data. How many of those, and how do they estimate that, and where are they staying?
Because I have a note here that I think it was on the application for the, I think it was a Washington Center. 70% use lodging, but none currently in Lacey. I read that. So, it's something, I mean, it's,
Some, I wonder how many of these numbers are staff or band or performing the performer, you know,
well,
themselves.
that's what these probably are from the center. But they said none currently in Lacey.
And I think you'll find, you know, when reviewing the applications, you'll see different descriptions, but these are also questions that you may want to consider, you know, asking at
Yeah.
a future
Yeah.
presentation.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because they're coming and asking us for money, but they're not helping us in the stays.
And I can only speak to when I worked there, Ruth, but that is a great question. They used a lot of downtown hotels in the vicinity of the Washington Center.
Wow,
It's
in,
scourging.
Huh?
So that's a scourging.
I know.
Do you mind if I?
I don't know
just
why
grab
that
a
hit me.
water?
so, and that is one piece of information that is also in the applications. When it asks, you know, have you reserved lodging? There is an option for applicants to fill out where they have reserved lodging. So
Yeah.
we're able to see
Yeah.
any sort of trends and things
Mhm.
like that. So looking at that, any questions about estimated participation in overnights at this point? And again, this information is added in the budget tool specific for each applicant. So you'll be able to see in that budget tool each applicant's specific estimated participants and estimated overnight stays to get a better idea of those individuals. So
Just to give a real quick temperature of the room, we have been sitting here for about an hour and 20 minutes. Does anybody need a short 5-minute break?
Don't be shy.
I sat at the game last night. 3 hours.
Great.
Good.
after reviewing this before diving into, you know, interview selection and considerations, a few things for interview considerations, and the time-wise, as we had briefly highlighted earlier, we are limited on time with our meeting time as to how many presentations we can see. So recommending a 10-minute presentation with maybe a 5-minute window for questions and any discussion with the applicants. That would allow time for up to 12 presentations during the meeting. So the recommendation would be to do roughly 10-minute presentations. With those presentations, we would have all of the applicants answer the same set of questions. So as applicable, last year, the committee kind of had consistent questions that they wanted more information off. I have here the 6 questions that last year's applicants prepared for interviews. So providing all of the potential interviewees the same foundation to prepare responses for all of you as meets the needs or eligibility for their event, and then providing the opportunity for PowerPoint presentations as we've seen in the past with a maximum of 5 slides. So those would kind of be considerations and recommendations for any potential interviews.
I don't know how that works if you have them all answer the same questions, because that's not pertinent to some.
And
So I wanted to say, as long as we don't, stop them or like from telling their story. Right? And so as long as they get to tell their story, yeah, fine, answer our 5 questions, but I want to hear.
But we may not have the same questions for every application sometimes is clearer than others. And so sometimes there's not a need.
And that would be, those are all questions that, would be at the discretion of the committee and as applicable. So last year, what was presented to the interviewees was, please prepare responses and materials for these 6 questions as applicable. And I'll take the previous funding question. Not all of our applicants would have received previous funding, so that is not something they prepared on. So it's providing the foundation that everyone will have the same information to prepare as it applies to them. So, and there, we can discuss after reviewing the applications what you all want to hear and if that's how you want to proceed. Again, just reviewing options and highlighting what was done in previous cycles.
And they do understand that, hey, if this doesn't apply to you, just skip it, go on to the next one.
Yes, that is outlined when they receive notification is, these are the 6 main responses the committee is looking for further information on as applies to your application. So if you're not going to be impacted one way or another, they wouldn't necessarily ask that. And I will note also during the application process, all of the applicants did receive notice and acknowledge with their application that we would be tentatively holding interviews next Thursday. So that was built in to the process when we decided as a committee to pre-schedule these meetings. So the applicants are aware that there is the potential to be called in for an interview at this date already.
You had something?
Yeah, I was just gonna, say part of the questions was also to help provide them some structure to the presentation. They have, submitted applications and, multiple pages of supplemental materials to really talk about who and what they're doing and how they're going to be doing it. And so last time we reviewed it collectively through conversation, we got these 6 questions that seemed to be kind of the central ones. It wasn't applicable to everybody that this committee wanted to see, but at least it gave us something to send them to say, these were the general questions that came out of the LTAC committee, if you can speak to them in your presentations.
Chad, are you gonna be able to be in person on the 19th, or do you know yet?
The 19th is really tricky. We have an event that popped into my calendar, so I am trying my hardest to be down there. But I'm just trying to figure out how to be in 2 places at once right now. So I should know by Friday, and I'll let Sadie know if I will be in person or not.
Okay.
So I'm wondering why I've still got the mic on. In years past too, Sadie, we've done like a 5-7 where they had a 5-minute presentation and we had 2 or 3 minutes to ask specific questions. And that was more in, like, we did ask them to talk about specific talking points, kind of like you've outlined these 6 questions. But I'm wondering if, like, for Ruth, for example, had a question about the Washington Center, if we would be allowed to ask that one-off question, because as we go through these, not every question is going to be applicable, but we might have specific questions for specific groups, and I'm wondering if there is going to be any space or room for that.
I think what I would recommend is we have some time right now to go over each application for you all to have that discussion. So
Okay,
going over each note, all of your questions, and at the end, review, here are the questions. How would you like to proceed with and what options? I think that that may be helpful to kind of see if you have any trends or consistency in how we could best collect answers to questions or decide to interview. Is kind of just see what questions you all actually have.
I think, Chad, in looking at question number one too, to get at the question I think that was asked previously about kind of just heads and beds in Lacey, that question could be more focused to ask that
correct.
specifically, so then every applicant is providing that same response too, to talk about how are you getting visitors from greater than 50 miles and putting heads and beds in Lacey?
And these, again, were
Perfect.
just last year's questions, so this year's questions will obviously be specific to the questions you all have based off of this year's applications. So,
Perfect.
and there is the opportunity, obviously, we can change the interview length and presentation time length at your discretion. That would just be looking at a time frame, the recommendation, and the longest to see the most number, but that obviously is adjustable based on how many interviews the committee decides to conduct as well.
Got it. Thank you.
So with that, we can start some application review. So you should all have the applications. I kind of broke this out in the opportunity for you all to review both the tourism marketing and facility applications at once, and then get through those and dive deeper into the event.
Yeah, some of those are pretty long.
Yes, so here is the list in this category of all our applicants, how much funding they requested. I did note if they were interviewed last year during the cycle.
I thought Experience Olympia and Beyond had up there to one
Oh, I
thirteen.
believe there is a typo. I believe you're correct.
I thought it was, yeah, 110 or 113.
Yes, it is.
Just a little shy of.
Yes, thank you, Deputy Mayor. So, and then information, were they interviewed last year? Are they a first-time applicant? Are there activities in Lacey? And then noting if it is a City of Lacey funded or sponsored activity. So with that, I can pull up the application packets if you would like, or you all have them in front of you. If you just want to go through them one by one, whichever works best for the committee.
Would you please bring them up? Because
Yes.
every time I try to scroll
Yeah.
through them,
Yes.
like it's a delay that you get the little spinny thing. And I know this software it also opens a new page every time I open. Does yours do that? Where like you go to look at, well, and then if you want to look at that one, it doesn't populate within, it's a brand new page.
Yeah, no,
Does yours do that too?
I don't use the same portal as frequently as you do, so I think, yeah, how you're seeing it, it's opening the PDF version of it.
Yeah, initially it just kind of like you had a static portion over there and then it would fill in the space, the non-static portion. But now it's every time you want to look at something, it's a new page. So 30 pages later, trying to get through the apps, so. I tried that portal right there too.
They're trying to take notes and ones, and it was just, yeah.
All right, so the first and only application in this category for the tourism marketing is going to be the Experience Olympia and Beyond application, and I can skip to any portion of the application you want to see.
When we do these in the future, can we just put that number up there on page one? I had to go and dig through it, but I don't want to make the dollar amount the big focus, right? But it helps if it was right up front. Let's just
Oh, yeah.
get your number up front.
On the application, yeah, I
Yeah.
agree.
I would also agree.
All right, so
I don't think I had any question on theirs. I don't have any notes on my. I had to try to take notes, because I used to go through and read them and then write on the applications what my questions were. And so I'm having to figure out a way to do that now, with everything online, but that's my issue, so.
I just took a pad,
I just thought I'd share it with you.
write down their name.
Yeah,
and-
well, I did the events and then some of the, yeah.
So, did you guys see the book Annette put together? Pretty impressive.
Mm-mm.
Oh my gosh, it's over 300 pages, a compendium of what we can, should, and will be doing here in Thurston County based on
Hmm.
data that she, in a
Oh.
steering committee that she put together in this 18-month thing that she went through.
Mhm.
I'm beginning to see why I made you.
Well, one thing I'm glad though, that she has representation from Lacey on her board, and that's a real plus, because when I started on this lodging tax, I don't think there was, except our representative from the city council there at all, so yeah.
So I think we know what they do, who they are,
Right.
why they exist, and what value they provide. So if we could, let's move on to the next one.
No further discussion?
Further discussion for VCB.
We will move on.
No, I think they're much more receptive towards Lacey.
Yeah, and don't we also have a member of our park staff on their board?
Right,
So that's
right,
two.
right.
So,
Sue's their board president, and then there's other people too, so it was, yeah. It's good. I feel like we're represented there.
All right, so now looking at the tourism related facility applications. We have applications for the Washington Center, the Lacey Chamber Visitor Center, the RAC, Lacey Makerspace, and the Lacey Museum.
and right now, we're really just trying to figure out which one of these that we want to have for a presentation.
Yes,
Right,
if there's
right.
any further question
Right.
or if an interview is required.
And I know we've never had makerspace here.
No, that'd be good down there.
Would you guys like to
If
see?
anybody new, we need to come in here and.
I think so
Yeah.
too.
Yeah,
Yeah,
And that was gonna be my default, was like, all the new people just need to come,
exactly.
Yeah.
right? But I did still wanna give
No.
staff a chance to go through.
Chad, any input to interviewing all new first-time applicants?
I think that's very important, just so we get to know who they are and what they're about and kind of guide them. I think it has historically, we have done that in the past. We've definitely invited first time people in, so I think we should continue with that.
Is there specific information this committee would like to hear from the first-time applicants?
Their story.
Yeah, their story, their vision, kind of what they need, you know, what they're
How does
hoping
that
to.
work? Lacey, I think.
Yep, exactly what Ruth said.
Excellent.
So Sadie, if you could, maybe, I know you're jumping back and forth on presentations here, but Sadie does have a slide with all of the first timers, so just we can
Yes.
just show you all, just to
Yes.
show whichever one is.
Yes, and I will have that for each. So this is the only first-time applicant in the tourism-related facility category. So
Nice.
is Makerspace. So I'm having them come in for a presentation. Also in this category is the Washington Center, the Lacey Chamber Visitor Center, the RAC, and the Lacey Museum, who haven't been discussed. Last year, this committee did see the Lacey Museum and RAC and Chamber Visitor Center for presentations.
I believe the museum did not, but the rec did
Okay.
provide a presentation.
And
That's what our
Oh,
museum.
thank you.
and the museum ask were they 48.5?
Yes.
Yeah, they're still the same.
They are.
Yeah, so I
I don't need to see them.
I don't need to see the museum and I don't need to see the rack. I mean, we know what the rack does. We know that they,
Was there one year that we didn't do 180 for the rack? We did 160.
no,
It's slowly climbed. It was 160, we went to
We
180.
went to
but it's
180.
been a while.
It
so,
has.
It was like
yeah.
2 seasons ago, or better.
I
Okay.
lose track of the pandemic years, but yeah.
Okay.
For this category remaining is the Lacey Chamber Visitor Center and the Washington Center for Performing Arts.
Definitely like to see Makerspace.
Uh-huh.
I'm not sure if the other ones need to come and tell their story again, but if you'd like to,
Which,
any.
The Washington Center and the Chamber Visitor Center are the two remaining without a
the
decision.
only question I have about the Washington Performing Arts Center is why aren't they promoting Lacey? I mean, it doesn't feel like they are, because nobody's staying there. Or they're no.
You know, we did get 2 facility days from Washington
We
Center.
always have.
Okay, fine.
So it sounds like there is a question though.
Yeah.
So would you like them to come and be able to respond to the
Yeah,
question?
just briefly, I mean, it doesn't, I don't know, because that just kind of sat wrong with me. I don't know,
Can Chad just not answer right now? I mean,
yeah.
He doesn't work
just
there
worked
anymore.
Oh,
now.
I don't work for the Washington Center for the Performing Arts anymore, so.
I just think it's something we should encourage them. I mean, for them to say that, it's kind of, and yet they're asking for more money. I don't know.
So
Well,
what,
it's me.
what I'm hearing is that we do want to hear from the Washington Center specifically about marketing, and we can discuss at the end again how you want to hear from them if you would
Yeah,
like.
maybe just a written comment. I mean, I don't know.
or like a phone call.
Yeah.
Or whatever.
I mean, it might be
Like,
good to see a presentation. I know they've had a lot of staff changes, so it might be interesting to see maybe if there's a different vision or what's going on.
Their calendar is full.
Hmm,
Their calendar looks nice.
yeah, yeah, it is nice.
Then have him come in then? I mean, since I didn't know there's brand new staff.
Okay, let's put them down with a question mark.
Okay.
Only because if
All
we
right.
get to 12, and then
Yes.
we can.
We will
let's
circle,
figure out.
we will
Okay.
circle
We're
back.
tentative.
Yes, tentative. So for this category, the final one waiting for a decision is the Lacey Chamber Visitor Center. Are there any?
Well, they're asking for double amount and
Are they asking for 70?
They asked.
Which is double what we gave them last year, but they've always asked for 70.
but when we gave them 70, they had probably 2 or 3.5 staff. Now they've got 1 3/4 staff. And I don't know, are they living, I mean, are they living up to their ask, I guess, is what I'm saying, is this,
I go to their events
okay?
and they seem to do pretty well. And
Yeah, the events,
they make you
yeah.
feel good.
the events
There's
do,
definitely some good feel-good events that come out of that place.
yep, they have some good events,
And the fundraisers that they do.
Yeah.
Go to those too.
but those are a different thing
Those are a different thing.
than,
The events that we're paying.
yeah.
Question mark, revisit
So-
at the end?
So if we have all 11 of the new. And then we have Washington Center, potentially Lacey Chamber. And we
Okay.
give everybody,
I don't, I guess, no,
Ten,
we
if we
don't
give
need to
them
have
10,
Lacey Chamber then.
and we
'Cause that
can,
does-
we can have that conversation with them as well. You know,
I guess, I guess for me, it goes back to if we're having the 12, if we have room for 12, maybe we shorten the time. Like 10 minutes is a long time to present. So I feel like we've done in years past that 5.3 or 5.2. I can't remember, Ruth, do you recall? It was like a 5-minute presentation and 3 minutes for questions.
I have a file here, but you don't want me to go through it, but anyway, no, it wasn't very long, no,
and
No,
if
it
we-
was,
yeah.
if their presentation is short, and they, we can redeem some time on the back end. I don't think we'll end up being
I'm
hours with
fine.
presentations.
We can certainly, again, that was just a kind of, hey, here's a number we thought of, about 10 minutes, maybe
Yeah.
5 for questions, but we can certainly, and you can get more presentations in if we say, hey, a 5-minute, 3-minute question.
We can add some
Yes.
presentations that we may have questions on after we.
And
get
we can
through
do
this.
the math after you determine
Right.
who you all want to see
Right.
and then say,
Okay.
hey, here's
Yeah.
maybe the
I'm
parameters.
not real.
From what I remember,
What-
some were real quick too,
Yeah.
so it all evened out.
My recommendation would be to identify who you have additional questions or would like to see and then maybe work out the time afterward, once you have a kind of that list identified. Does
Sure.
that work?
Perfect.
But you need to be able to set the expectation.
Yep.
With outgoing communication. Hey, you've got 3 minutes to present and 4 minutes of questions.
Yeah. So,
Yeah,
again,
yeah,
let's-
10-minute presentation is kind of long, now that
Yeah.
I'm thinking about it. 5 is good.
Mhm. I don't need to see chamber. I mean,
How much more are they
Because-
asking for?
they're asking for double of what we
Double?
gave them last year, but back to what we had given them the year before.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Alright, wipe chamber off.
right, so
We can
for,
always add them.
Okay.
I'll think about that one.
Yeah, you think about it.
so for marketing and facilities, I'm hearing we would like an interview from Makerspace as a new event and an update from the Washington Center with specific asks regarding marketing of Lacey Hotels.
Correct.
Like, why should we keep
But
paying?
they're, you know.
I mean, like, yeah, that was kind of shocking, when you told me that.
Mhm.
Maybe, what's like 90% of it was all in Olympia, not Lacey.
Yeah, and it seems like that's where the relationships are with the hoteliers in Olympia.
Right.
And all these years, I mean, you'd think they maybe would establish some relationships with Lacey Hotels.
Yeah.
Yet to be seen.
Can they hold an event here in Lacey, maybe? I mean, would that be fair if we were to give them funding? Is that too much of an ask?
The
Like an
center.
outdoor like show or something? I don't know.
Oh.
It's really,
Thinking
I mean,
outside the box. There you go.
I do like thinking outside the box. As a former member, it is very hard to move your entire operation to a different place where you don't have equipment and you don't have things. So it makes it a little bit more logistically challenging to move your entire operation when you're set up. So, but that is a question on the table, Andrew, that you could definitely ask.
Okay.
So,
I'm just trying to think of solutions here. I'm not trying to like,
Yeah.
tag them or anything like that. I just trying to
Yeah.
think of something.
No, totally understand. That's what we're here for.
well, the next category for consideration is going to be all of the special event applications. So looking at this sheet, maybe with the number on here, I would recommend striking out any applicants you know that you definitively do not want to see.
Gotcha.
Fun fair, scratch them off. We don't need to see that.
Cultural event, I don't
I
need
don't
to
need to
see
see that.
that one. 3rd of July.
Don't need to see that.
What was their July again? Was that the show?
The
That's the
fireworks.
fireworks.
Mm.
So
Yeah,
the-
fireworks.
So they still trying to do that drone show, whatever? Was it
They-
just
that was
one-time
last
thing?
year.
That was
Last
a
year?
a
Yeah.
unique application.
But they didn't apply this year?
They did not.
Okay.
I don't feel like I need to see Harbor Days.
No.
That is one of the new applications,
Yeah,
and so.
Oh, Harbor Days is? I'm sorry. I thought,
Yes,
okay, then
Okay.
I don't need to see
Everybody's was here before.
Polyfest.
you don't need to see.
So,
Polyfest.
No Polyfest?
I go to it every year.
Okay, gotcha.
Anybody else, Polyfest?
no, I don't need to see Polyfest.
Does anybody need to see Washington Senior Games?
No, that was my
No.
next one. No, definitely not.
no,
Is-
Juneteenth, we don't need to see.
Does anybody need to see Thurston County Fair?
That is one of the new
That is
ones.
a new.
New, it's new.
It's not our fairgrounds.
No,
No, this is, the application was actually from the Thurston County Fairgrounds and Event Center,
Mhm.
and they are a first-time
Okay.
applicant.
Let's see them.
So definitely.
so I have a question about this SWAY or SWAE or whatever.
Yes.
Did I read that they contract with the city for all the different events that let's see, I think there's 3 that
There are
they,
3 unique applications for them, one being the night market at the depot, which I believe is the partnership with the city of Lacey. Their second application was the night market at Ricardo's, which I believe is not a city partnership. And the third application would be for the holiday market, which again is not in partnership with the city of
It's not in
Lacey.
partnership. Okay, so the one that they have the contract with us, I thought I read one of them has a contract with us. That's
Market
the
at the Depot.
depot.
Mhm.
Do we pay them? No, they won't. Okay. Never mind.
So that's 3 and 1.
And all three of those are first-time applications.
Bring them.
Yeah, that we need to see them, but yeah.
We had also the Lacey in Tune concert series. Did the committee want to hear from them?
I think we all attend that.
Yeah, we totally all attend that.
Mhm.
To clarify, that means no.
No,
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry. I
No,
also
you're
don't,
fine. Just wanted to make sure.
I
it's
don't
so
need
hard
to
not
go-
being
I
in
don't-
person.
I don't have any questions about the barbecue festival either.
I don't either.
So no South Sound barbecue?
no, the block party, was that last year too?
Yeah, we funded them last year, if I remember right.
And yes, they received funding for this 2024 cycle and recently held their event.
Did we get the
And
numbers?
she did a lot more promotion on the website. South Sound Block Party.
We do not have the numbers. They had the timeline for them to submit the reporting has not
Okay.
yet.
But we did get a public comment. That was their comment earlier today, right?
Yes, the public comment submitted was by the facilitator of this event.
Right.
Of the South Sound Block Party.
Correct.
Did anybody attend?
I did not.
I didn't either.
I was out of town with a funeral.
So,
Maybe they can give us a follow-up on
update,
how
yeah.
things went, what their expectations are for this upcoming season. I saw on their public comment that they showed distances and who came from where. I think, was it them who had a heat map or was it Makerspace? One of them had a heat map, or I mean, a map that showed the distance.
Vaguely remember that too.
Yeah, and it was like there was some over in like Tennessee or something
I
like that.
believe the map was from the makerspace. I do believe that the comments though did provide some geographical locations from where
Yes.
visitors came from for the South Sound Block Party.
Okay, let's,
And the South Sound Block Party also included some businesses that they worked with in our area.
maybe she can
Update.
give us some, how much did we give them last year? 5,000?
Yes,
And this year they're asking for,
10,000.
oh, we're gonna double down. Okay, well,
I believe that is the same ask they had last year. They were partially funded for their ask last year, so.
and have we seen receipts from them?
No, their reporting materials are not due yet.
Okay.
So typically, with those events, they have a time frame until they have to report them after, and that's something that we can prepare for this committee to review at the Q1 meeting, similar to this year, kind of that end of year recap as well, which
Their yeah, wasn't their event the 23rd and 24th of August? So it was just a couple weeks ago.
yes.
Yeah.
So I'm hearing South Sound Block Party is an interview candidate.
Or did you go to the party and you didn't serve the crowd?
No.
Okay.
I thought Troy would be performing.
We don't need to see Chris Kringle Market, do we?
Those are the military girls?
Yeah.
Yeah, we don't need to see them.
No experience, but, okay, no, and we are gonna see Harbor Days because they're new or no?
They're new.
Yeah, it's
Yep.
new.
So we should have. them
Have
come
we
in.
not ever seen the Harbor Days? I could
No.
have sworn we've seen Harbor Days before.
You may have gone to it.
The
and it-
wooden, oh, I'm thinking Wooden Boat Festival. We've had an application before. Maybe,
Hasn't been in the last couple of years.
Right.
no, I'm just thinking it was probably one of my first or second years here. I feel like we've had Harbor Days a long
I'll
time
answer
ago.
that question later.
Okay.
I'll review my file if I haven't thrown it away. No.
USS USSSA celebration
They're
tournament.
new.
What is that again?
USSSA.
That is a softball,
States.
Soccer, or softball.
softball.
Celebration tournament.
Yeah. That was quite a big thing, it looks like.
And they are a first-time applicant
Members.
for the city.
Let's meet them.
So we've got, for repeat ones, we've got Reach the Beach, and then also the Soccer Foundation. And then the Winter Festival.
Where's the soccer foundation? I thought they were, oh yeah,
Yeah.
soccer.
Holy soccer.
Yeah, the Harlequin is new,
Yes.
Mhm.
so we'll see them. Or we don't know.
So of the three repeating ones from previous years, does the committee need to see any of them?
And again, that was the Chamber Winter Fest, Ole Soccer, and Reach the Beach Relay.
Well, Reach to the Beach, aren't they expanding that? That's a,
I'm writing
I-
about this.
what?
I was gonna say, weren't they changing where they were starting from
Yeah.
this
Right.
year?
They're starting at the rack as far as I know.
Okay,
Yes. I believe their application included, let's see.
They had,
They had some
remember last
ideas
year they
about,
were gonna add another day?
Yep.
And
Mhm.
this year, I can't remember now.
so I have the event map, because I signed up for the event to ride in it.
Up their
Yeah.
materials here. So it looks like they have listed in this marketing item their routes with Lacey recognized. And then
So it says here, and it's on page 329, Sadie, under question 3. It says they're looking to expand to a 2-day event.
Yeah.
And they're strongly considering either making Lacey the overnight location or having both days starting in Lacey area.
Which is what they
Yeah.
told us last year.
Right,
Mhm.
but they haven't got there yet.
It almost feels a little carrot-ish, but
329.
we are still starting at the
I was
rack.
looking, they had
this year.
also included their route options.
So they haven't gotten there yet.
No,
Maybe just an update, maybe just maybe a quick update, just let us know. They were I feel like they were a fun group, they were doing some good stuff, and
And
that's my take.
So
Just
we
an
would
up,
have more stays on the first day, would you say, or on the overnight stay? So I prefer the one, whatever develops more heads and beds, in my opinion.
I think
Fair.
we're gonna have some Friday night stays as it is, because it starts at Saturday morning at 7.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, and so if they do expand it into the 2-day, then, and it starts in Lacey, that could double our stays or
Okay, or, yeah.
at least enhance them a little bit.
Yeah, I think we need to hear from them.
And remaining for returning applicants is the Chamber Winterfest, Ole Soccer, and Capitol Lake Fair.
The other thing about Capitol Lake Fair, I noticed that they don't get any money from the funding from Olympia lodging tax.
They
Maybe
did
the-
Did anybody else notice that?
Maybe the land is in kind.
What?
They use the Olympia space land.
That's city, that's a thing with, oh, well, this lodging tax, I guess, but heads and beds money? I don't know.
I did see a few,
I think they had a riff a few years ago.
Yeah.
But I don't know that it's been solved, so I don't know. They don't get any money from the lodging tax.
I think the question for this group is, if you want us to have them over for a presentation.
Yep.
That's it.
I think those questions that you just asked would be better answered by them.
Okay,
So that
Or it
sounds
So
like,
bring them
Yeah,
back.
bring them. Our list sounds like it's getting pretty tall.
Yep. What about South Sound Chamber Winterfest?
no,
But Olympia Funk,
That is a new
New one.
application.
I happened upon that event. was downtown. I think this is the one. There was a funk festival going on above the restaurant I was eating at. And I'm wondering if it's the same thing. It's down in,
Can you tell us what day it was?
I think it was my wife's birthday.
Okay, well, see what time the festival is.
Yeah,
You can't remember the date.
I'm trying to think.
Oh, he's in trouble.
That's November 25th, but,
I
it was either
Oh.
her birthday or my mother-in-law's birthday. It was, you know what I mean? It was a birthday without a Y chromosome.
Yeah.
Okay. And we went down to that steakhouse downtown and above, there was the party was going on.
So as a new event applicant, would we like to see Olympia Funk Off?
Yeah.
Oh, for sure.
Right.
Mhm.
The funk off is the end of January, the beginning of February.
Okay, I knew it was a winter month.
Sounds about right, huh?
Yeah, in that ballpark, somewhere between November and February is.
So just back to the ones that we haven't heard, and maybe I missed this one, but soccer.
Ole Soccer?
Oh, we've seen them so many times.
Yeah.
So remind me again what the night market is again at the Ricardo's? Is that
Yeah.
just?
Yeah, it's just, isn't the night market the one where they just bring vendors in and, yeah.
And so it is a new event, so we do have them down right now, and they've got 3 applications, so if you
Yeah,
can
the
speak to
same
all of them.
organization. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
If it's the same night market that was there last year, during the holidays, it was very busy and very full. So,
And they do have an independent holiday market application and one for the night market at Ricardo's, which appears to be a continuous event similar to the market at the depot that they host, just in a different location.
different venue. Okay.
Now, the market at the depot that they host, that's the one with they have all those white tents. I remember it because I drove by and I was like, what's going on? And I stopped.
At the depot?
Yeah,
Oh, yeah, it's every Friday night or every
Every
other
other.
Friday night.
and then there was,
Summer through October.
is that the one with the live band as well? Or is that's,
They have DJ music
They have
every
DJ.
time I've been there, but
Okay.
they sometimes advertise they're gonna have live music, but they didn't.
So we have 2 remaining
Okay,
applications.
we gotta stay on track.
Both are first-time applicants, the first being the All Kids Win 5K and the second being the Olympia Symphony. Those are first-time applicants. The committee's expressed that they'd like all first-time applicants. Is that consistent with this?
Right.
true. Is it the same Olympia Symphony that applied for our day at the Washington Center?
I believe so, but I would have to double check. We applied for a free use day of the Washington Center.
Yeah, we had 2 days, Washington Center
Yeah,
days.
we'll have to confirm that one. We'll get back to the group on that, but I think with my math holds, we've got 15, Sadie, is that correct?
Yes, 15 candidates for
Okay.
interview. So
Is that the same number that we had for the? Oh gosh, Michelle Chavez, overseas student.
So
We had
then,
16 applications and 15 applicants, yes.
so then we can go back to 5-minute presentation then, right? And then still have some wiggle room
so that would be
instead
about
of 10.
Yeah.
an hour and 15 minutes of interviews total at 5 minutes each, so.
So this sounds like it should be a catered event then.
Did you say?
Catered event, I
Oh,
second.
catered event, yeah.
And would the committee like to add in on top of the 5-minute interview, any discussion time or just 5 minutes max? How would we like to proceed with that?
I think there needs to be some discussion time. There's
So-
questions.
So are we saying 5-minute presentation, 2-minute Q&A, or just 5-minute presentation and go on your way?
However the committee would like to do it. We could just designate an overall time commitment for all of it. We could.
So when we do public comment, we do 3 minutes, right? And during council meetings sometimes it seems like they feel rushed or, so if we did, I don't know, what's a fair and equitable way to say, hey,
I would say
You got
total
7
10
minutes.
minutes maybe.
Total 10?
Yeah, and that would give us some time to,
15? That's
I
an
don't
hour.
know, if they're doing a presentation and then if we have any questions.
That's definitely.
I don't, a total of
I
10
just saw
minutes
that
per
there.
with questions.
5-minute presentation, then just Q&A after.
Right.
For like 3
And
minutes
how-
or something.
3 minutes, okay.
If we have our questions written down beforehand, I think we should be all good. Unless they throw a curveball.
Well, and a lot of times, you know, and I'll agree with what Sadie said, is a lot of times, like, we have those 6 questions that say, hey, talk to these points. They answer a lot of our questions. It's any questions that come up from that presentation that we tend to ask. And in years past, it's been one person has one question. So it feels to me that setting aside an additional 5 minutes might be way too much. So if it's a 5-minute presentation and at like 3 minutes, you know, and then build maybe 10 minutes in case we go over, like we're having a fun time and there's like 10 more questions, you know, just kidding. There's not ever going to be 10 more questions and that's not fun. But if we do 5 and 3 and then have maybe a 10-minute window slush fund in case we go 4 minutes with one on accident.
Yeah, give 'em-
Absolutely, yes, so
if we give 'em
I
eight-
will.
3 minutes is consistent with the city policy.
Well, there is a difference though between public comment
Oh,
and
okay,
presentations,
okay.
so.
So what I'm hearing is the
It's just
committee would
visual.
like to direct all of our interviewees that they have a total of 8 minutes for presentation and dialogue, with noting that we will build in a buffer that we are essentially scheduling within 10-minute time frames for each applicant in case of any go over.
I think that'll give them a chance to trim down their presentation to just what's necessary.
Right.
Just
I'd
a
agree.
update, Troy did some real quick research, and Troy, can you give us an update?
The Washington Center free night application came from Olympia Chorus. Another follow-up, the RAC went to 180,000 in funding in 2022.
22. 160 to 180.
Oh, it's that recent, huh?
Yeah, I didn't remember.
I didn't realize it was that recent.
Yeah, I remember seeing 160 and then all of a sudden 180. And I'm just like, wow, okay. And I just kind of chalked it up to Jerome Powell.
Wow,
Oh, my goodness.
with continuing for
He's in reform tonight, huh?
Yes. Continuing with the direction to give our interviewees, what I have heard this committee say is they just want a overview and update from all of our new applicants of what they are, what their goals are, how they are going to enhance tourism in Lacey. And then it sounds like from our returning applicants, the committee is just interested in hearing updates and accomplishments resulting from previous funding.
Correct. It's about right.
Excellent.
And then, how come, you know, from Washington Center, how come we're not getting any of the action? You know,
Mhm.
where's ours?
Where's the
I don't wanna have to cut you off.
Yeah,
My recommendation would be to guide the interviewees to prepare within their 8-minute time frame, overview of their activities and their activity goals. And if applicable, returning applicants provide updates on the success of their events and marketing strategies specified towards marketing tourism in Lacey.
Lacey. yeah.
And then
Very interesting to say that.
with the opportunity for the committee to ask more specific questions as applicable.
Please.
Very good.
Good.
Well,
Well-
get those sent out. We do have meeting time scheduled again next week at the same time, beginning at 3:00. So with that, the our interviews will be provided guidance that they may have a PowerPoint presentation of a maximum of 5 slides to cover all of the material we're asking. And there will be a presentation ready for you all when they're here.
And then you'll have this.
The budget and scoring tool you will all receive tomorrow or tonight tentatively. So my recommendation would be to start scoring at least completing the scoring portion for all that you can prior to interviews so that you have a head start.
And then is that gonna be aggregated or?
So we'll take the information and data, we'll look through it, and that's why, you know, we've got a lot of kind of things we're asking for you for just kind of touch points so that we can sift through it and come back with some recommendations as a starting point for a conversation, just like we did last year.
That's not an answer.
Yeah, well, one option may be looking at an aggregate of certain scores, right?
Okay.
So, yeah, I think we will take a look at that, we can present that, what it looks like in totality, and then create some options based off of that.
All right.
Last year, one thing we noticed that there were a lot of consistent trends with funding from all of the committee members' budget recommendations. So that is also something considered when preparing recommendations, are how similar and in some instances exact were the recommendations of likeness. So if there is any other additional priorities or thoughts that you have when you send your budget tool in, please just include that in your email and we can add that.
And when we send it back, are we sending it to both of you?
You will send it back to me. I will email you with a due date and it will just all be sent back prior to the meeting, and then we will reconvene to do our final budget decisions. Troy will be here to help with the balancing.
Yeah, and it's just a starting point for a dialogue, right?
Exactly.
Excellent. And then from,
Because we can be swayed sometimes.
Just a note on the document itself, and Sadie will provide some directions to this, but we'll send out the scoring Excel spreadsheet for you all to fill out. And then when you send it back to Sadie, Sadie will confirm that she has received your scoring card, and at that point, you may delete your copy of the scorecard from your device because we have the record on ours.
Okay.
and then what I also heard is at that final budget meeting, the committee would like to review the scoring rubric itself. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Any
For
other?
weighted values.
Great, well, you all have closed down City Hall.
Wow.
I know.
Are we that good?
Well, I noticed all the staff has been leaving and they've been, none of them have
Well,
waved.
Actually, we
Except
have,
Rick waved when he left.
we are ahead of schedule for this meeting. So Chad, did you have another question?
I will be live and in person down there next week, so.
Oh, look at him.
Cool. So we have reached the end of our agenda. Does anybody have any closing comments? Okay, seeing none. Well, I guess we will see you guys next Thursday, 3 o'clock. Is it 3?
Yes.
Same time?
Yeah.
And then we'll have the 15 interviews at 8 minutes apiece. I guess that puts us roughly in the 2-hour zone,
Snack time.
Lunch.
Yeah.
something like that.
Dinner.
If I can make it a catered event, I will.
I will send a tentative schedule as soon as I have it for all of you, just to prepare.
Okay. well,
Perfect.
With that, I will call this meeting adjourned.
Thank you
Thank
so
Madam
much.
President.
Thanks, everyone.
You.